This is going to be a little interactive somewhat. And what I would like to do, I'm going to ask a question, and those who believe it's true, I want you to raise your left hand, and those believe it's false to raise your right hand. The question is, the perfect commercial idea comes straight out of your brain to create a profitable business. True? False? Which one? Okay. The title of this presentation, The Idea in Your Hands. The reason why I asked that question, every great entrepreneur story pretty much is exactly the same. It is. So I made a template. You fill in the blanks. So for this one, I'm going to fill in myself. Starts with an initial product concept, experiences an aha moment, changes and reiterates 100 times, develops a commercial product, and generates a horde of investment. Sounds the same. But in this story, there is one thing that is different. That little line that says changes and reiterates blank times. I've met so many entrepreneurs in my financial planning practice who thinks that a business happens in a snap. And I chuckle, because even Facebook didn't happen in a snap. Google didn't happen in a snap. Let me even tell you about Google. Google is funny. When Google came out, it was not called Google. It was called Back Rub. Do you like Back Rub? I didn't either. So I'm glad that they made a change and came up with Google. So things do change. I laugh because I love Google. They have that nice, simple page. It's nothing on it. It's nice, clean, and clear. I thought, wow, that is such a brilliant idea to be nice, clean, and crisp. But it really wasn't the plan. It happened by accident. They didn't know how to do HTML coding for the front page, so they left it blank. Sounds great to me, but it worked. That happens so many times in businesses. But we think that the business starts in someone's brain with one idea, one time, and it comes out profitable, and that is not how it works. For any business, anywhere in the world, and any time in the history of the world. Now, I'm going to tell you my story. Now, I am not an inventor, and I am not technically a techie. I am a financial person. But I decided to go into education, and one day I was in a classroom, and a student asked, why do I need to learn science, technology, engineering, and mathematics? And I really didn't like the response that they received. So I said, we live in the wild, wild world of intellectual property. And they looked at me and was like, what is that? Patents, trademarks, and copyrights. Let's talk real truth. Money does not move the world. Patents move the world. Trademarks move the world. Copyrights move the world. Because whoever owns those have all the money. It is what it is. But we hardly ever have that conversation. So I decided, what if I was to make something fun that talked about that conversation? Now, when I said it, I had no idea. I slept on it. And I slept on it. January 1st, 2011, as I was getting into bed after partying all night, I came up with this idea for this board game. But this is what the idea looked like. Lots of scribble. Notice the name at the time was called Whoops. My mother didn't think that was a good name. She's probably right. And then it started out looking somewhat like Monopoly, square. So I wrote it down and went to bed, so I'll work on it tomorrow. I got up, didn't like the squares, and decided to do something different. Notice third reiteration. We're at the 7th reiteration. Every idea that happens in the world happens in your hands. We want to say, oh, you got to have a fancy pitch deck. You got to have a fancy business plan. Let's be real about it. In the reality of it all, before all of that happens, that product must be developed, at least the ideal of it. And that happens in multiple reiterations working on that project, no matter what it is. In this case, for me, it was paper because I didn't have any money, so I had to do it the poor way. But for other people, it may be wood, it may be metal, it may be plastic. It has to be something that you use with your hands. 10th reiteration, and then I finally hired a commercial graphic artist who made it pretty. He did it with his hands too, although it was on a computer. 22nd and 27th reiteration, and then we got to the 40th reiteration. Now, here's what's funny. When I started on that board game, I really wanted a mobile video game app. That was January 2011. Couldn't afford it, didn't have no idea where to go to even think about doing a mobile video game app. So I did the next best thing. I created a board game. But I'm going to tell you, when you put the idea in your hands and you work it out with your hands, eventually the goals happen. On Sunday of this week, I entered my first pitch competition and won $5,000. Now, thank you. Now, let's talk real turkey. Would that have happened if I had sat on my idea? No. I'm going to tell you why that wouldn't have happened. Because between January 2011 till April the 12th, 2015, I was incredibly busy. I made the board game, and then I turned around and went back to the public school district and said, can I have a contract? They said to do what? Student workshops. So they gave me one. Then I turned around and said, can I have another contract? They went, sure. What do you want to do this time? I think I want to do some parent workshops. They went, sure. So then I went to a smaller school district and said, you know what? It would be wonderful to have a summer camp evolving around invention. They went, what do you think? I gave them a proposal. They hired me, all because of the board game. And then I thought, oh, maybe I should go out to the community and make this bigger. So then I went and found the national partner Tech Shop, which is a fab lab out of Silicon Valley, who says, you know, we don't have any time on our agenda here in Detroit, but can you come out to Pittsburgh? I went, sure. So I held a community event in Pittsburgh. I don't know anybody in Pittsburgh, so it was a real learning experience. So I went out to Pittsburgh, had an event called Catalyst of the Invention Revolution. Then I brought it back to Detroit in 2014. Then while I'm at the UAW Ford, who was my host, of course, they wrote me a check, which was nice. They said, you should make that for high schoolers and not middle schoolers. So then I created Automation Works in 2014, got some money from a few sponsors, and had this event. And then I left out of the event, and as I was walking out the door, the executive said, what are we doing next? Well, I'm on the spot. I said, we're going to the auto show. Now, mind you, that is in September of 2014. The auto show is January of 2015. That's 4 months. So in the back of my brain, I was thinking 2016 auto show. But then I went over to the auto show people, and they were like, no, we weren't thinking about 2016. We were thinking about 2015, and I almost fainted because that's 4 months of raising money and putting it together, and really you need a year. But I'm going to tell you what happened. I went to raise the money, and in 4.5 weeks flat, I raised $20,000 for that event. Isn't that handsome? Which is why the idea in your hands is getting moving. You gotta get moving. You can't leave it in your brain and hope that the time is gonna be right, because the reality of it all, the time is never going to be right. Number two, you don't know if you're gonna be here. And let me tell you why I say that. I have a set of twins, a boy and a girl, lovely children. They were never giving me an ounce of problem. One was at Western Michigan, the other one got a scholarship to Rochester Institute of Technology, both on their way to be startups. In September of 2014, my daughter died. 20 years old, about to graduate from college, and had just begun the planning of a startup. I was devastated. But you know what I learned? The one thing that stays beyond memories are the things that you make. Let me say it again. Beyond memories, the things that you make. The things you make are the ideas that are in your hands. So I was really risque today. My daughter made this shirt. This shirt inspired this presentation, The Idea in Your Hands. It also inspired a Kindle book that I wrote of the same title. I'm right now working on a class for Udemy with the same idea. Why? Because those are the things that are lasting what you make. Not the money, not the pitch deck, and sometimes not even a startup because you sell it and you move on to something else. But things that you make, the ideas in your hand, last forever. So my last question I'm going to ask, when are you going to complete the idea in your hands? I'm going to ask the question again. When are you going to complete the idea in your hands? And that's just not a philosophical question. That's a question I want you to really think about. What idea has been burning in the back of my mind that I have not done? When am I going to complete it?